Well, my name is Norma Welsh, and I'm from LeBret. Born and brought up there. My father was Joseph Welsh. My mother was Eleanor Amiot. And we grew up several places in LeBret. Several areas, I guess I should say. We lived on the Road Allowance and on the Métis Farm, and went to school and had lots of fun.
Where did you go to school?
LeBret.
At LeBret?
Mm-hmm. And my mother died when I was 15 and quit school at that time. I was in grade 8. And a couple of years later, the kids went to the Prince Albert Orphanage, St. Pat's.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were there for, I'm not sure how many years, but I hung around at LeBret for a while and ended up going to Regina and got married and moved to BC for a few years. I've lived all over the place. And I'll let Joey tell you his side.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm Joe Welsh. I'm Norma's one of her little brothers. Well, I got the same family history as she has, except when her mother died, there was Norma and another older sister, Billy, and a sister, Pauline, who were all teenagers at the time. They looked after us for a couple of years, and then the 7 youngest of us were sent to St. Pat's Orphanage in Prince Albert. I spent 8 years there, and during that time, well, we didn't lose all contact with our family, but it was such that we were made to feel that we were lucky to be there and that we had nobody except them, you know, to be thankful for an education, food and clothing and shelter and all that kind of stuff. But we were fortunate enough that we didn't forget our family and where, you know, we came from. But in that 8 years, you can appreciate that we lost a lot of where we come from and who we were. And then in June 16th, 1961, I jumped the fence and I hitchhiked back to Regina.
You remember?
Yes, yeah, it was I was in high school, and they had a rule that if you failed a grade in high school, that you couldn't come back. So I failed grade 9 on purpose and went back to Regina, and there, my father and a couple of sisters. Norma was in BC at the time, but we reestablished as a family. I didn't finish high school. I quit after grade 11, and I done everything from working in an eviscerating plant to working for farmers to being in the army to being a social worker to being a bum to everything. And I've lived all over the place too. And I'm still a bum.
Did you know your grandparents?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. And I knew my great-grandfather, Johnny Blondo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He used to live with my grandparents. And he was very ill and was bedridden for quite a few years. But my grandmother looked after him until he died. But we used to, visit them, and we had to go by their place when we were going to school. We'd walk up the hill from the school there up what side of the valley is that? Where the seminary was? South side. So we did that, and we had also, we used to walk across the lake in the wintertime. And we had this old grandpa, we used to call him Moshom Sepir. And he was married to my dad's aunt. And we always stopped there on the way back, and we always had bannock and tea from Grandma. And she was just a wonderful bannock maker. No, I never ever learned to make bannock like that. And then Moshom would be sitting in his chair, his rocking chair, and he had this spittoon about a mile away. He used to sit there and smoke his pipe and spit, never miss it. Well, we always thought that was so disgusting.
Isn't that what they called merde de job?
I don't know. We used to call merde de job, that black stuff you pick off the trees.
Oh, that's what it is.
Probably. Oh, we thought the devil pooped there. It was part of learning the stuff we were growing up with. But yeah, but we lived at the Métis Farm too. We were there for 8 years. And I believe that's where I started school. I didn't start school till I was 8. The reason being is that there wasn't any room in the school.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And I think a lot of kids my age didn't start till they were 8 for that reason.
Yeah, that happened, I think, in a few places.
Yeah. So some of us were unfortunate that we couldn't start earlier, you know, but as a result, I quit school when I was 15 and just went to work in different places. Looked after the kids for a couple of years and moved to Regina, and the first place I worked was at Sears, which I think everybody in Regina worked at Sears at one time. And like I say, from there I got married and moved to BC.
Did anyone like make stuff out of any plants, like, you know?
Sage we used to use. What else?
What is that root stuff?
Seneca roots.
Wheat case?
What?
Wild ginger? Is that ginger root?
Well, it's apparently quite
Okay.
bit around there. And then there was the roots of the, what do they call them, bulrushes? There's
Yeah.
some stuff in there.
I don't remember ginger.
And then there were
Like mostly
people
for
who
cold
used
climate
poultices
stuff,
and,
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There was a lot of mint. We call them Seneca roots. I'm not sure what they're called.
Wild,
We
some
used
people
to.
call wild parsnips, or?
But they weren't that big. Like they
No,
weren't big
no,
like
no.
or long like a parsnip, but we used to dig up these roots and they would be little roots about that big, and we just dig them up and eat them. Go up in the hill and dig them up. But the only other things I can remember is the sage and the mint. And,
Well, what was that, what do they call it? Tila boom? What is that?
boom, that's
Tila boom, yeah.
that's isn't that mint?
Oh,
Or
Yeah, I think
Is
it
it?
is.
Oh.
it
Yeah.
is mint, yeah.
Yeah, the boom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that name until you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boom.
But I don't remember, any other kinds of.
You know, yeah, I guess you had the usual stuff like mustard plasters and poultices and,
Oh, yeah.
and stuff like that. And,
That was a big thing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, they worked.
That's for
One of
sure.
those things.
How would you make one?
Mustard plaster?
Yeah.
You'd make a paste with flour and dry mustard and water. And you had a towel, and you'd spread it on the towel, fold it over, and you may have another towel to wrap it in because it was pretty strong. And they would put it on your chest when you had a chest cold. And believe me, when it was finished, your chest would be red. It burnt. But, it worked. Poultices were bread and water, all boiled, made really hot. You'd put that on boils or any kind of
Oh, yeah.
skin irritation and stuff. It worked wonderful on boils because I don't know why in those days people got boils a lot. But, yeah, that was another one. And Mom used to mix a paste of sulfur and molasses. And we would get that to eat in the wintertime.
Sulfur and molasses?
Yeah. It was very good. I liked it. And also cod liver oil. We had to drink cod liver oil in the wintertime. I can still taste it.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did you eat a lot of wild game when you were growing up? Was there
lots of rabbit and ducks, and occasionally deer. But I never liked the deer meat, but rabbit and duck was just wonderful. We always used to fight over who's going to get the head and stuff like that. I tell my kids these stories and they just want to throw up and stuff like that. They think we were nuts. But it was wonderful. And fish, we used to ice fish in the wintertime, and Dad and them would go out and throw nets in the summertime. And this one time, well, talking about putting up snares for rabbits, my grandpa used to bug Ernie, my Pisho, we called him, my second oldest brother. He used to tease him because he thought Ernie was just a brat, you know. And so he found out where Ernie put his rabbit trap, and he went one morning and put a fish in it. So Ernie comes home and, oh my God, miraculous thing happened. He got a fish in his rabbit snare.
This was the guy who slapped the bishop.
Yeah. He was quite a character, but we also, Mom would have chickens. And we kept them in the house. We lived with them, you know. Kept them in the house in the wintertime.
And she was the beekeeper at the farm, too, wasn't she?
Yeah, Dad, both her and Dad, yeah.
I remember that honeycomb. Yeah.
So did the chickens have their own room, or did they?
You might wake up in the morning with one perched on your head or something. No, the little ones, they were kept in cages kind of thing, you know. But they had to be kept warm in the wintertime, so. And then in the spring, of course, you can let them out. You know. So we had chicken, but mostly, and then somebody would butcher a pig or something, and they'd go out and cure it and that kind of thing. We had a root cellar where we'd keep cured meat, you know. But I actually liked the rabbit better than any other meat at that time. It was very good. Ducks in the hunting season. I couldn't eat a duck now if my life depended on it. Just prairie chickens, partridge. Those were good.
Were there special recipes that people used to use, or special
Well,
ways of
not that I
cooking?
can think of. I know, like, you would stuff the ducks and, you know, prairie chickens, not much you can do with them because there's not much to them. Just cook them in the oven, bake them in the oven. In the summertime, we had a stove outside, so we could cook outside. Because with our family, we had to make 15 loaves of bread 2 or 3 times a week.
You know, that's funny she would say that, because I remember everything tasting good. No, really.
Yeah.
Like she said, it was a simple recipe. You know, even the grease from the, you know, from the frying stuff. You know, to have little baking powder biscuits and dump that. You know, they just.
Yeah.
But no, they kept us for 2 years, and I don't remember anything tasting bad. As soon as I got to the orphanage, bam, that was the exact opposite, you know.
Yeah. Well, we used to dip our bread in grease,
Yeah.
you know. Gosh. And, because I don't recall having too much butter. And then when margarine came along, we just, oh my God, that was really something. We'd have to sit there and squeeze this bag till...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right, to mix
the
it up,
color.
right,
No,
right.
they
I
weren't allowed to have
vaguely remember that.
colored margarine, so that was
Yeah.
against the law. Correct, I think.
Some little button and sort of squish it
Yeah.
all up to make it orange, yeah. And it was gross looking
I
color.
must have been a Catholic and made
Yeah.
that law.
Well, when we were on the farm, though, we made our own butter, and we used to we had an old butter churn, and we had a milk separator. So we used to separate the milk, and then we'd make butter, and Mom would make cottage cheese. And it might taste like stinkweed or something, you know, because the cows ate everything. And your milk would always taste like whatever it was they
Yeah?
ate. Yeah. Sometimes it was bad, but most of the time.
Somehow milk that tastes like steak.
I mean, it smelled like it.
But you don't, you don't think of that somehow with cows. Somehow you think of them as antiseptic. Because when you're talking about rabbits, like the only time I ate a lot of rabbits was when I was up north, and it always tasted like spruce, because that's all they ate.
Oh, I see.
Like, so the rabbits there, it tastes like you're chewing on a juniper berry. Like they taste that piney.
Well, have you ever tasted our prairie rabbits? They have a different taste altogether. Yeah,
no, I never have actually eaten a prairie rabbit, because I'm not...
Well, they're a different taste altogether. Well,
Must be better.
well, I like them better.
Yeah, we love to.
Do it on a Christmas tree.
Yeah, that's what these ones in up north are like, chewing on a...
And like if you hear Billy tell about it, now I don't recall this, but Grandma used to roast gophers out on the, we'd build a fire outside and she'd roast gophers, and apparently we ate that.
And you always talk about, or Billy does too, something called Swiss de barrel.
Yeah.
And as near as we can figure it out, it's a groundhog.
Oh, a Swiss de barrel, as far as I know,
is a squirrel.
Is a squirrel with the big tail.
Oh.
The one with the fluffy tail? Isn't it?
Okay.
Or do they all have fluffy?
No, there's well, the groundhog, they're different depending on where you are.
Yeah,
they call
where
them
you're
ground squirrels some
I
someplace.
see.
And,
Okay.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
How did she say that again?
Swiss de barrel. And for the longest time, some would like cheese or a Mexican dish or, something like that. But okay, well, there's two versions again. A ground squirrel, groundhog, or, and maybe you said a nickname before, less Swiss. That's, maybe that means
Swiss
squirrel.
de barrel?
No, somebody's nickname was less Swiss.
Swiss.
But
How would you cook those? They're kind of little.
Well,
a squirrel, yeah, that's why I can, like a squirrel or like gophers, like a nice big fat groundhog, you could get some meat on.
well, apparently Grandma roasted them on a stick over the fire.
Get some
But-
cute little squirrel eggs.
I was just going to say, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to try that sometime at the next LeBret homecoming. Get
I don't
fire
remember
up
that.
some gopher.
Yeah, right.
She said it was good. I don't know. I don't remember eating it, so.
I guess you didn't know what
And I've denied it anyway.
Yeah.
we never did. Did people still have house parties and sort of like old time, with the jigging and the fiddling and stuff when you were growing up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah?
That was just such a fun part of our lives. And everybody would go, like Mom and Dad would go, and they'd take all of us kids. We all went. Hitch up the wagon, or in the wintertime it would be the sleigh. And we would go, and La Rocque's had quite a few good parties. And everywhere we went, like the women were just marvelous dancers. And they'd be square dancing and jigging, and us kids would be watching in awe, they were so good at it. And there'd be some pretty big women, and just light as a feather on their feet. And this happened actually, especially in the summertime, quite often. It would be at somebody else's place each time, And you could see of course, the floor was just boards, and the boards would just be shaking, moving up and down. But, yeah, it was a wonderful experience going through that.
What was it about the women's dancing that made it stand out so?
Well, to me, it was how light they were on their feet, And even one of the old ladies could play the fiddle. They could call a square dance. And they were just really wonderful at what they did.
Who played the fiddle? What woman played the fiddle?
I don't know if I'm supposed to give names, but Cliff LaRocque's mom.
Oh, yeah?
She used to play the fiddle. And there was always somebody, even my dad could play the fiddle, there was always somebody that had a fiddle. And that's all there would be, no other instruments. Just fiddles, and it was marvelous. And we'd sing, of course, we'd have sing-songs too. So it was quite fun.
Was there anybody that, say, sang any French songs or songs in Métis? Actually, I remember Jimmy Parisian could sing songs in Métis. I heard him singing songs in Métis.
I don't remember.
I remember there was a couple. There was, what was that called? They were, what the French song from France. There was one, Sur le pont d'Avion, on the Avion Bridge, and then there was one about 3 ducks, 12 beaux canards.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
now I remember. Yeah.
And there was a Voyageur song, C'est l'aviron qui nous mène, c'est l'aviron qui nous... That was the...
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
the-
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's all I remember.
But it's amazing, like,
Yeah.
how many generations some of those songs must have traveled
Yes,
down
yeah.
to still be
Yeah.
part of, you know, your
Mhm.
life
Yeah.
growing up. Like,
Yeah.
that's hundreds of years.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, really
Well, my
hundreds
dad
of
spoke French, and he could sing in French, you know. He used to converse with the priests. Like, a lot of them just spoke French. And, of course, Grandma, I believe she's from Quebec. Grandma Welsh.
Grandma, very, yeah.
Because in the family thing that Dennis did, it shows she was from Quebec. Exactly where, I can't remember reading that. I'll have to go back and read it some more. But my son did a family tree going back to 14 generations. And oh my gosh, I think I'm related to everybody in Canada. Including the Sauvays.
Oh, yeah, you're related to
Nora.
Sauvays,
Yeah.
It's Norma Welsh's
Chartiers.
mother was a Sauvé.
Yeah.
Yeah. From,
Boyers.
she was from James Bay or Hudson's Bay. She was from
Absolutely.
way up north.
Yeah.
So I found her script application.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got that too. That's in that package
Yeah.
Dennis did, yeah. So it was very interesting. And a lot of these people were from all over, like Paris, Europe, all way back when,
Germany.
yeah, Germany.
When you went to the dances, did people have jigging contests? Do you remember people having jigging contests?
No,
No?
no, we just went to, it was just usually house parties. I know there were jigging parties around, like contests and stuff, but we were never at them.
It was mostly square
No.
dancing that people
Yeah.
did.
And there'd be jigging too. I think everybody in the world could jig at that time. That was our entertainment, though. And it was wonderful.
Do you remember how they used to jig?
Well, I've seen a lot of it on TV, like the way they jig, and most of it was the same.
The same.
Yeah.
Did the men and women dance the same, or were there differences between the men and women?
I can't remember any differences. Like a lot of the jigging, there was no really high stepping. You know, I noticed some jiggers really step high. But as far as I can remember, it was the same.
So the steps were lower?
Yeah.
So there wasn't as much?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always find it interesting because sometimes when people watch, they say, oh, well, that's not right. That's not right.
Yes,
That's not the
yeah.
way that I remember it, you know, or...
Especially about Tarsha.
When did your family move to the Métis Farm?
Oh boy, you're asking me something I can't remember. I don't remember the year, but I remember we were there for 8 years, and we moved off there in 1948. And I was only 4 when we moved. But at the same time, I can remember us going up the hill to the Métis Farm. And our cows were tied at the back of the wagon, and we were all sitting around and all what little stuff we had on the wagon, and the team of horses. And I guess I don't remember much after that, you know, until I was a bit older, and my dad worked, all the men worked at the barn, you know, where they we had cows and had pigs and chickens. And so we always had meat and chicken, and we always had, there was also farming done. And because I can remember making stooks.
All right.
Yeah, we used to have to do that by hand. But the houses, I can't remember how many houses there were up there, but I remember this big, fabulous house. I thought I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was a mansion, and it had 4 bedrooms upstairs, and it had a kitchen and a separate living room downstairs. And, of course, old wooden stove and that kind of stuff, cupboards that was unheard of. And it was just wonderful, a big yard. And I think all the houses had sand boxes in their yards.
Oh, really?
We remember playing with the sand. And all the men worked at the farm, and the women just visited and gossiped, and occasionally we would have, I think it was once a month, they had a hall where we could have a party, and about once a month they'd have a square dance. My mom and a lot of the women around would bake and make soup, and we'd have a big feast up there. But it would just involve the people who already lived there. There was Blondos, there was Charlies, there was Morans, there was Kellys, and I think there was about 3 families of Blondos up there. And well, did I say Desjarleys? Mm-hmm. There was 2 families of Desjarleys too. Actually, the one family had, the lady there had kids from a Blondo, and then her husband passed away and she married a Desjarley. So that's Mary Louise and them.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, who else was up there? Sarah Blondo,
Sarah Louis?
Sarah Louis,
Yeah.
and then John Moran and his wife were the next one. Mary Louise was the next one. Auntie Clara was there. I think they built a couple houses after we left there. But Maurice Blondo, Jean-Om's dad, lived up by the barn where all the activity was. They lived up in what was called the main house. And we had a baseball diamond. And what else? Yeah. Well, like I say, once a month, I believe it was, they would have a party, square dancing and jigging, and all families would take part. But Mom and her and the women made the meals, baked the cakes and the bannock and all that kind of stuff. We would, some of us, my cousin and I were 2 of the people that had to milk cows every morning. Now, I started that when I was 8 years old. We'd go up and milk the cows, and we'd gather the eggs. Well, we weren't the only ones milking. There'd be several children, our age group, anywhere from 8 to 15, whoever could get there in the morning to milk the cows. Before we went to school, we had to do all that. Then we'd gather the eggs, and we would be required to go and help clean the barns, you know, that kind of thing. The horse barn and the cattle. And there would be once a year butchering, a couple of cows and pigs. It would be enough to feed all the families that were up there at the time. And all the meat would be cured, because certainly nobody had fridges. You know,
All right.
We had root cellars, though. And every summer we would get these big blocks of ice. Actually, my dad worked on the lake, making these big blocks of ice and delivering them to families so that they could put them in the root cellars. And that they were covered with what is it? They were covered
Sawdust?
Sawdust, yeah. The ice was covered with sawdust and would last for the summer usually.
Really? How big a chunk would it have been?
Oh, big, huge chunk.
They, they used to have ice haulers into the 60s. Well, I know in PA they used to have the ice wagons, and
Yeah.
did they have them in LeBret too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And they would deliver the ice up at the farm once a year. And we would have baseball games, you know, those kinds of outdoor activities, and all the kids in the, in the community would get together, and we do have other games as well. Like we'd play tag and Red Rover, and all those kinds of games. We used to have one called the Chaillère de Marmite.
Oh, tell us about that.
We'd run around in a circle, and you'd stop behind somebody, but that person isn't supposed to know you stopped behind them. And they'd have to have their eyes closed, and they had to guess where you stopped. And it was such a fun game. And well, we made up most of our own games anyway.
What is a marmite? Is that a
It's
weasel or
a marmot is some kind of animal.
a mink or a weasel or something?
Yeah. But what we call them, a Chaillère de Marmite, was an old cast iron pot, soup pot. So I don't know where the name of that game came from. But we would play that and drop the stick, and in wintertime we'd make angels in the snow and go sliding. Like we'd come off the Métis Farm, and of course there was all kinds of hills there, so we would have big sliding parties and stuff. And it was, I don't know, just a wonderful time of my life, I thought anyway. And just visiting, you know, women getting together and visiting. They'd make a lot of embroidering of tea towels and pillow slips and tablecloths and that kind of thing. And of course the kids once a year wasn't it? They'd have a little circus. They'd have rides and a merry-go-round of some sort, or, you know, different, like a fair, you know. And I don't know where that came from. Like if it was, had to be, have been paid by the government, I think. But, so we used to have that once a year. And of course there was our picking berries every year. But we did that all our lives, so that wasn't anything new. But there'd be oodles of people going out picking berries. And we had 2 or 3 different managers up there. I remember Falloons for one, that was managing the whole area. And I guess I was 12, I think, when we moved off there.
So you would have spent the better part of your childhood there.
Yeah. But it was wonderful up there. Because we'd never lived in that kind of a house, you know. We lived in more shacks and log cabins and that kind of thing. And like a lot of our relatives were there too. Some of us were related to everybody there, you know. And actually my dad became ill, and we had to leave in 1948 because he was no longer productive.
Oh, so he couldn't work?
Yeah. He developed emphysema. And I believe a lot of it was working with the pigs, because he's the one that looked after the pigs. And he'd castrate them and butcher them and you name it.
Yeah, and he was also small, so they use him if the threshing machine got bunged up. He'd be the one have to go in the straw walkers to unbung it, or in those days, so the granaries, you'd have to do mostly shoveling. and
And so the dust.
their grain dust and all that kind of stuff.
So they wouldn't have had any kind of,
No pension plan, no.
yeah,
No.
you know, so if someone became disabled when they were living there, then they had to
Yeah.
leave.
And he was relatively young at that time, yeah, too, you know, but, and not only that, like, we took our horses and our cows with us. We had our own when we moved up there. And when we moved off, we weren't allowed to take them.
Really?
So I don't know what happened there, like, I imagine, I don't know if the cows would have been too old by then anyway, but, because
The equivalent when you
Yeah.
contribute.
yeah. But we left there with nothing, just our furniture and the clothes we had. But we had a lot of fun there with all kinds of relatives and friends. And there was one occasion, I think Ernie, my brother Ernie, was out in the field making stooks, or he was helping Dad do something. And he would have to take his lunch. I guess it was past Charbonneau's out that way, where he was working on some farm. But anyway, he used to take his lunch, and Billy would make the lunches for him. And one day he came home and he said, "Oh, what an awful lunch." He said, "My sandwiches tasted like wax paper." You know, so lo and behold, the next day he went to work and he had wax paper sandwiches for his lunch.
Oh, here, look, is that stooking?
Yeah.
Oh. See, these are
And
the
these-
individual seeds. That's what
Yeah.
fused together. See the...
And you built them up like you would a teepee, you know.
Did you tie them somehow?
Well, they came up
They tied
tied.
on the binder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Binder tied them in.
See, there was a picture here of an individual.
Oh,
well,
right,
you can
right,
see them
right.
better here. Yeah, see these.
Yeah.
These were their sheaves here. You know, like these probably.
And they're all over here. But we used to go and, some of us kids used to go and, we didn't have to do that, really.
So it
But-
wasn't child labor?
Yeah, no. But we liked doing it because it was fun. We thought it was fun.
So it would come off the machine like that? I
Yeah,
don't know
see,
nothing
it
about
would come
tie,
off.
I just find it really...
See, this is a binder, like a swather. It would come off, and there, see, you can see where's the little canister. There's where they kept the canister of twine, and that would tie the sheaves individually, and then
So they come off the chute like
they'd
that?
come off
Yeah.
like that,
And then you pile them
Then you
nice?
have
Yeah.
to stack them up.
yeah, and then the big machines would move in there. What the threshing machines would move in, and that's where the threshing crews would come. They'd take each sheave like that, feed it into the threshing machine, and it would separate the wheat from the chaff, I guess they call it,
Yeah.
and walk it along and separate the, the seeds. And they even had separators where they would separate the weeds. Like in those days, I guess buckwheat and those kinds of weeds would be common. And they even had a separator that would separate the wheat seeds from the buckwheat and all those other kind of seeds. And then again, it would separate the straw, and it would come out the end of the, oh, there's not a good picture of a threshing machine here, but then they would use that straw for, they didn't have balers, or not many of them had balers, but they'd bundle the straw into haystacks or put it on a hay rack,
All right.
and that would be the, it would be feed, unless it was a bad year, but that would be bedding for the animals you put in the barns.
Yeah,
And, yeah.
in the barn, yeah.
They didn't waste much.
Well, no, and like one of the things that's, that I've heard people talk about is how much of the farm labor in that whole region was done by Métis men.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
how
was.
many of these crews were Métis men?
Oh, yeah,
and
they
they used
had-
to go work from farmer to farmer.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, my dad did that all his life, except all the time we were here at the farm. He always had work on a farm.
Did he hire himself out with a crew? Did he have a group
No,
of men
he-
that he worked with? Or?
No, he just, farmers called him, they would not call, via telephone or anything, but they would get a hold of him somehow and ask him to come to work, because he was a hard worker.
Because that was a big part of the economy out
Yep.
there for
Yeah.
many people, was working on the farms, like doing the threshing and
Yeah.
coming out and doing all of that.
When we used to go and pick potatoes for the nuns, they had this big potato farm out by Katepwa. and they'd pay us $1 a day to go and pick potatoes for 8 or 10 hours, whatever it took. But that, you could buy a whole bag of groceries with that $1, you know. 100 million jawbreakers.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
So how would you dig the potatoes? Would you just dig with a pitchfork or like a fork? Or?
Well, they had a machine that went along.
Oh, they had one over there?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they just flip it over and you
Yeah.
come along like with a
And
sack?
you'd have to do some amount of digging, but we had those little shovels, or, you know, to dig anyone that were further down, like.
Oh yeah, well when you were picking berries, like, did you guys pick berries to sell?
No.
Or just to,
keep.
how did you preserve them? Why do you laugh at
Another lesson I learned, but go ahead.
Mom used to can Saskatoons, raspberries. We could find enough of them. Usually we're able to find enough maybe for 10 or 12 jars, you know, just the small ones. Pin cherries were made into jelly. Choke cherries were, some of it was made into jelly and some of it was crushed.
Oh, right.
We'd sometimes have a little crushing bee, you know, Grandma and some of the family would come over and they'd all have their crushing stones and they'd sit around and somebody would make tea and they'd crush these choke cherries. Then you laid them on a flat piece of canvas, and of course canvas is flat anyway, isn't it? But you'd leave it on rocks, big rocks, to dry.
Out in the sun?
Yeah, out in the sun. And in those days I couldn't understand, but nothing ever bothered, you know. You'd leave them out there for 2 or 3 days, and as long as it didn't rain, that was fine. And then they'd make, you dry them, and then you can cook them and fry it, kind of thing. Make a paste, like jam or jelly. You could spread it on your toast or your bread. And they also made what we used to call toro. And it was choke cherries with, I call them gortons.
Oh, right.
You know?
Piggy puffs.
Piggy puffs. With that and sugar and...
Yes, yeah.
Was that all it was? Anyway, they'd make this toro, and I just loved it. It was so good. But that was basically it, the choke cherries, the fat, and sugar.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And it was so good. So we'd make that, and, you know, we had the root cellar, so you could keep... Mom would make anywhere up to 100 jars of Saskatoons. And because we just picked all summer. We would start around the 1st of June, and we wouldn't quit till the end of July. Picking, and it was, when we weren't in school, it was after school every weekend. We were always picking berries. And it was fun, like none of us minded doing that, you know. But, you know, that was mostly our berry picking. We'd sometimes take a lunch, or we'd take the wagon and go in an area where we knew there was lots, and the whole family would be there, have a picnic, and just really enjoy it.
Was it mostly the women that would go?
Yeah. Even though, like, my brothers picked berries too, like the 2 older boys. Joey started picking here a few years back.
Initiated it.
Initiated, yeah.
And there was, we used to, cranberries, high bush cranberries we had over there. Make jelly out of that. And Mom would make pies, or we'd just eat the Saskatoon as a dessert. And I guess that's just it, you know, it was continuous every summer.
So that was
We would do
mostly,
this.
did you share with other families? Like, did you take any over to your grandparents, or that, of course, with such a big family?
Well, Mom would give the odd jar probably to Grandma, but every family picked, so
Yeah.
you didn't have to give them away.
So everyone was...
Yeah.
So that would be your fruit for,
Yeah,
like...
for the
Okay.
year. And, like, I get asked for Saskatoons all the time because I always have lots. When I go picking, believe me, I go picking. They always tell me, oh, Norma just has to stand there and the
right.
berries fall into her
Yeah,
pail.
they jump in. Yeah.
Oh, she's here!
Yeah, right, yeah.
But I I don't know if this was Joey was going to mention, but I don't believe in selling Saskatoons. If somebody wants Saskatoons, I give them away. No, the only thing, like I get asked to make pies for a lot of functions, and then I'll sell them. Like I'll sell the pies, but
for the labor, like?
Yeah. If somebody wants Saskatoons, I give them away. I give to a lot of the old ladies there, you know, I give them a package, and they just appreciate it so much.
So many people love their Saskatoons.
Yeah, because they can't go out and pick anymore. But I do mostly every summer.
Do you still make grins?
No, I don't.
Some people still make grins.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do in the city. Like we have 100 million birds in our backyard, and if you're going to dry them, but I suppose you could do that in the microwave or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how they make it nowadays, but I know people make it.
I never thought of that. Yeah, I knew people did it, but I thought it was, you know, out in areas where...
Out in the country, like?
Yeah. But I haven't. Usually Cliff LaRock does a lot of crushing choke cherries. He has some kind of crusher
he could
there.
do that with those big
Yeah.
hands of his.
And I don't know. I think he freezes them, and they dry that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Because occasionally he'll give me a little jar of them, but I'm sure that's what he does, is freezes them. But I really think they taste better done outside, you know.
Than the old-fashioned
In the
way.
sun, yeah.
Did when you would pick, would your family have like a different area to go into than other people? Or
Yeah.
People would have their spots. I
We-
notice now people are.
Yeah. Yeah, we had, especially when we lived up on top of the hill, like our nearest neighbor was, I don't know how far away, and we had the whole top of the hill to ourselves, basically. And we had tons of Saskatoons. But most people had their own places, Catawba, Fort Capel, like people went up near the graveyard at the fort. There's a big patch up there. And there are patches all over the valley, but people won't tell you where they were. They really won't.
So,
But, I know, was it a few years ago we went over to Batoche by Maria's and picked.
Oh, geez, that was
I think we came out of there with about 50 or 100 gallons.
Yeah.
holy
Just
smokes.
out of one
You do
pack.
serious picking.
Well, that was a good year. I think that was 95.
Yeah.
95, yeah. And they were like
Yeah.
Grapes.
grapes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, so it's the best I've had for a long time.
Yeah, and I just finished my batch from there about 2 years ago.
So you were saying you went on looking for a patch on it with a golf cart.
Well, yeah, that was my Auntie Margaret there. You know, she, I went picking with her one day, and before that she would never tell me where her berry patch was, so we went to Kitepwa, where the golf course is. She rented a golf cart and drove over, 5 or 6 fairways up this little hill and
I can just
parked the golf cart.
That's a visual image.
Well, yeah. Dodging golf balls, something like that. And parked the golf cart on a little plateau, and she looked at me and said, "Don't you tell anybody about this." And we walked into the bush with 100 yards and up a little hill, and there it was. Holy Moses. Hit the mother load there. And that's how, you guard that, because, the Saskatoons particular, choke cherries, they're all over the place, so I never heard of anybody having a private choke cherry patch, but the Saskatoons were precious. But all this talk reminds me of another lesson that I had to learn. Years ago, when we first started going up north fishing, we used to go in raspberry and when the blueberry season started, and we were going along to the Besnard Lake Road towards Movell, and there were people, on the sides of the road with all these cans of blueberries and stuff for sale, and I made the remark, about we don't, there's people that are selling their stuff, but that's not part of the culture. And when it really was there, just said, that's commerce. culture happens in the berry patch. and just, you know,
keep it straight, boy.
keep it straight, yeah. And then, you know, the implications of that, and it's true. Well, and she said, you know, before we had schools, you know, we'd go in there and, you know, the women would teach the kids, you know, and then there was, you taught them patience, you know. You ever go, yeah, we'd go picking berries with your kids. Oh, pick 6 berries. Oh, my can ain't full yet. So, you know, you have to have the patience to learn the patience to pick steady and not eat anything. And then the arithmetic of it, okay, there's 2 pails. We only have to pick 5 more pails, you know, and then stories would come out of there, and then they talk about the women would take the children and well, the girls mostly, well, there was all kinds of separations and all kinds of functions to that culture, where they talk about, the women would teach the girls about growing up and what it meant to be, you know, to become a woman, and the duties and responsibilities that they had, and then the men would take the boys over there, and, you know, the bigger boys. The women, it always seems, would take the little children, you know, boys and girls, and that's where that's where the school was, in effect, before we had schools, and that's where culture is, in the berry patch. On the road is commerce.
Men's world, women's world.
Yep,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I know when a lot of guys talk about berry picking, they often talk about their moms.
Yep.
Because that was where they used to go with their mothers, eh? They used to pick berries. I mean, like, it's just when you think that's where you spend time with your women, you know, the women, your mom, her female friends, your relatives, like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all kinds. You learn relationships and all kinds of stuff. That was, you know, the real part of the culture, and the other things are as a result of what the work and what the learning was took place in that activity.
Cultures in the berry patch.
Yeah, I like that. I always never forget that.